Today we're making creamy butternut squash risotto with sage and topped with parmesan cheese.
So the first step is going to be getting this butternut squash peeled and roasted so that it can start to soften. You can wait to peel your butternut squash until after it comes out of the oven. However, I don't like to do that because I like to cube it prior to roasting so that it goes a little bit quicker. So we just want to make sure we're taking all of the skin off here, and any extra bits, maybe you can't get the end very well, will come right off after they roast in the oven. So this is looking really good. So next we're gonna cut it up and take the seeds out. I like to cut the butternut squash where the thin part meets that bulb base. Chop this in half. Okay, so to take the seeds out, I'm just gonna be using a regular spoon, and I kind of put my thumb here to kind of reinforce it and then just dig out, and it should come out fairly easily. Like that. We are actually going to save these seeds because we're going to run them through a colander, take that flesh out, and then roast them. Butternut squash seeds are a little bit smaller than pumpkin seeds, and they get extra crispy in the oven, which I love crispy things, so I always save my butternut squash seeds and I roast them. Chop it in half, and then I always go in half again like that. Yes.
Continue to chop your butternut squash into roughly even 1-inch pieces. This will make the roasting process a little bit faster and even if they are all about the same size.
Okay, so just lightly season these with a little bit of olive oil for roasting. A couple tablespoons should do it. And then I just add a little bit of salt to season it. There's a lot of flavor in the risotto that we wind up making, so you don't need to season these too heavily. Butternut squash also has a really nice natural sweet flavor, so we just want to complement that. We're gonna go ahead and get these in the oven to start roasting.
We are going to roast them at 350 and check them after 20 minutes or so.
Fresh sage has a really distinct, almost bitter flavor. It smells like fall, it's so good, but it's best when you bloom it in oil. So we're gonna prepare these leaves by first de-stemming them, and then once they're all de-stemmed, we're gonna take it over to the stove and fry it in a little bit of oil.
Finely mince your sage until you have a couple tablespoons or so, and then we're going to take 3 to 4 garlic cloves and mince those as well.
We will be using arborio rice for this. Arborio rice is a short grain rice that is a little bit starchier, and it makes risotto that classic creamy texture. We actually don't use cheese in this recipe because this rice does such a good job at being really creamy, so we don't need cheese other than putting it on top, of course.
Put some unrinsed arborio rice on the stove and put enough stock on top to cover with about 1/2 inch of liquid on top. When boiling, turn the heat down and let continue to cook for about 10 to 12 minutes. When finished, fluff and set aside to cool for later use. After 20 minutes or so, check your butternut squash, and when fork tender like this, pull it out and let it cool. Next, heat a couple tablespoons of butter, and then when bubbling, add your garlic and sage. Let it fry until the garlic is nice and golden brown, the sage is super crispy and very fragrant. Then we're going to set that aside as well. Next, add that cooled butternut squash to a bowl, careful not to put any foil in there with it. Then, using an immersion blender or a fork, mash it or blend it until it's the consistency that you like. I like to add a few chunks just because I like the texture, but feel free to make it a fine mash. When done, we are ready to combine our risotto.
So the first step is adding this delicious arborio rice that we cooked. Next, we are going to take that butternut squash that you either immersion blended or just blended with a fork. So just start combining this. Remember, the creaminess for this risotto comes from the butternut squash. We're gonna add in that delicious sage and garlic that we fried up. This is looking so beautiful and so good. And then for extra creaminess, an extra tablespoon of butter. Okay, I'm so excited to give this butternut squash risotto a try. This is so delicious. It celebrates the sweetness of the butternut squash. It's creamy because of that squash. The arborio rice with a little bit of butter is so good. The sage is perfect with that butter that we fried it in and the garlic. Definitely add this to your rotation. Give it a try and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.